spend much more time on these introductory remarks because we have far better speakers among us who can really share some important information with you. So I immediately want to introduce our first speaker, our keynote speaker, Bart Bibuik, who is the Executive Director of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. And he will not only inform you, not only, although the partnership is quite a topic in itself, but even about hydrogen valleys. So I immediately give you the word, Bart, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and also thank you for the V4 countries to invite me. Hydrogen indeed is a very interesting topic and a hot topic at the moment, also in the European policies. And so I'm happy to explain a little bit now in my presentation about what the Clean Hydrogen Partnership will focus on in the next 6 to 7 years, and also a little bit on our next call, and then as explained also a little bit on the hydrogen valleys. I will go a bit fast, but you will have the presentation later on. I already sent my presentation to Mrs. Agota, and so she can then forward it to everybody. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it should be fine now. Okay, so first of all, the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, or the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, is, of course, it's a public-private partnership, and you can see we have 3 main partners: Hydrogen Europe, which is representing the industry. They have more than 350 members. And then we have on the other side the Hydrogen Europe Research Community. They have more than 103 members. That's all research communities and universities across Europe. And then, of course, in the middle, very important, is the European Commission, is because they are giving actually the financial means for us to fund, to support all those projects in research and innovation in, of course, the field of hydrogen and fuel cells. We have now in the Clean Hydrogen Undertaking, we have 4 objectives. The first one is to support the implementation of the Commission's hydrogen strategy. As you know, in 2020, the Commission made this hydrogen strategy. So we need to make sure that we get to that we realize the goals, the KPIs that have been set in the strategy. Of course, we need to stimulate research and innovation and clean hydrogen production, distribution, storage, and end-use application. You will see I will come to that later in much more detail in my presentation. But also what is very important is to strengthen the competitiveness of the European clean hydrogen value chain. And you know that Europe is leading in this value chain worldwide, and the key point is to keep leading and even go beyond that. So, and also then to contribute, of course, to the European ambitious 2030 and 2050 climate ambitions, you know, the Green Deal, we all know very well. So this is a bit the strategic priorities. So we have basically 3 main pillars. So we have the hydrogen production pillar, the hydrogen distribution pillar, which is new for us, because in the previous program, FCH-JU and FCH2-JU, we were mainly focusing on production and end use. And now we have the distribution. So in a way, you can say we need to connect the dots, the production with the end user. And that's what we need to do with the distribution. Then we have a pillar on the end use applications. We have some horizontal matters, which is the hydrogen valleys. We come to that in a minute, but also cross-cutting, standardization, training, and safety. Then we will also work on the supply chain, on the manufacturing, the scaling up. And in the same time, we also have general support actions also to the Commission in international cooperation and safety. We will have now a new mandate to become the European knowledge hub for hydrogen and fuel cells, and also on communications of course, all the results that we achieve in the program. The Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, the program so far, we have supported, that's of course due with FCH1 and FCH2. So far we have supported 287 projects, supported for €1 billion. And important, we will also, the private side has supported with more than €1 billion. So since 2008, we have spent more than €2 billion in all those areas, as you can, valleys, end use, the storage, distribution, cross-cutting, and production. So a little bit, what have we supported so far in the Visegrad group? You can see there for the 4 countries. I will not go too much in detail, but you can see that, for example, like Poland or Czech Republic is, of course, very, very active in our program so far. And we hope, of course, that with Hungary and Slovakia also will catch up now. and in the new program become more active. And I'm sure, because also I see in Hungary and in Slovakia a huge attention now to hydrogen. So I'm sure that now in this new program, those countries will also now be more active and try to contribute to the innovation part as well. So now I go to pillar one. I go one by one. So pillar one on the electrolyzers. So here our objective is really reducing the electrolyzer cost. We have to improve the dynamic operation of the electrolyzer. So meaning shutting down and restarting and so on. So this dynamic operation, the durability, the reliability, and also, of course, the efficiency. We will increase the current density and the footprint. So we need to make sure that we use less space for our electrolyzers. They need also to be able to demonstrate the flexibility to the electricity grid, and ensure also the circularity by design for materials and production processes. Of course, we need to scale up. We need to go to gigawatt electrolyzers. You know, the target of 4 gigawatt by 2024 and 10 gigawatt by 2030. So we need to scale up. And also we need to improve the manufacturing, again, for water and steam electrolysis. We will also work on other routes than electrolysis. Also here, same, you'll see the objectives is mainly on our new partnership, reducing costs. So we will reduce the cost again here, improving the efficiency again, also increasing the carbon yield for processes based on biomass or raw biogas, and also increase again here the scale. So, but in this one, you can think about direct sunlight conversion into hydrogen through these solar panels kind of type, or you can also think about algae to produce hydrogen. So this is really low TRL, but we also will do other modes. But the main focus is, of course, the electrolyzers, because we need to go directly to the big scale to meet the objectives of the hydrogen strategy. The second pillar is the hydrogen storage and distribution. When we talk about first large-scale storage, the objectives here are really, again, cost and efficiency for the above-ground storages. Then also we need to demonstrate distributed above-ground storage solutions at a very low capital cost. Then also when we go then to underground storage, we need to validate the performance for underground storage in different type of geologies around Europe. Also to identify what kind of materials and new designs. And again, here we need to then demonstrate also huge large-scale underground storage across various media and low capital cost again. Cost is the issue here. Hydrogen in the natural gas grid, the pipelines, natural gas pipelines. So here we will develop technology and materials to explore and support the transportation of hydrogen via the natural gas grid. We might need to think to different kind of metals or coatings or whatever. Also, we will enable through research and demonstration activities the transportation of hydrogen through the natural gas grid by blending, because some people think, well, maybe 5% blending would be okay, or via repurposing really to 100% hydrogen. And a couple of projects already are starting to look at this. Then the next one is the liquid hydrogen carriers. Here again, efficiency, reduced cost of the liquefaction technologies. You know, liquefaction is very, very popular, for example, in the US. We need to catch up here in Europe a little bit on that. Of course, we have good companies who knows that, but we need to work on that. Also, we need to roll out the next generation of liquefaction technology. What we need to do is here building, making the technology smaller, and so that it takes also less footprint. We will continue to do research on the carriers' cycling performance, the chemistry, the catalysis, and the reactors, which show really the potential for improved round-trip efficiency and life cycle assessment. So, and then also developed fourthly a range of hydrogen carriers that will be used commercially to transport and store hydrogen while improving the round-trip efficiency. For example, ammonia, or liquid organic hydrogen carriers, and so on. So we will work on that. Then improving existing hydrogen transport means. So here is inside the hydrogen pipelines, we will look into increasing the pressure or the capacity for new built pure pipelines, and again, while reducing cost. Also, we will try to reduce road transport costs of compressed hydrogen by increasing the capacity of the tube trailer. So they have a truck with a tube trailer. Now it's 200 bar. We can, for example, think about 500 bar or 700 bar. So it takes more hydrogen in the truck. Also, again, improve the efficiency of road transport by using the liquid hydrogen, because that's definitely coming up. and then enable also the scaling up of solutions for shipping. So we talk about ships of bulk liquid hydrogen and support its localization, commercialization, because we think there is some tendency also to import or export hydrogen, and then liquid is one of the ways to do it. Compression, purification, and metering solutions. So we need to develop more efficient compressor and purification technologies, especially compressor, because that's when we see in the project, that's where the biggest failures happen, is in the compressor. Again, here we need to reduce the total cost of ownership of compression and purification. We have to reduce, of course, the energy consumption and increase the recovery factor of the purification technologies. Increase the reliability and lifetime of compression and purification, and improve also the metering technologies and standards. So how do we measure how much hydrogen you have been dispensing, for example? Then on the building blocks, now we move to pillar 3. Pillar 3 is the end use. Here we need to improve, of course, the overall system performance for fuel cell stack technology. So the building blocks is really the fuel cell, the tanks, the compressors, all the parts that you need. Okay, so we will work, of course, when you all put these parts, the overall system performance, of course, but also we will reduce the reduction or replace on PGM loadings. So think about new materials. We have a lot of platinum now, and so how can we change the platinum to something else? Also, we need to think about new materials for onboard storage for the tanks. We will improve also the design and health monitoring and manufacturing of core components for fuel cell stacks, for example, the MEAs, and also for the onboard storage technology. And really extending the European leadership on fuel cell production from automotive to maritime and aviation. So basically what we learn in automotive now has to go to more heavy-duty transport. Heavy-duty vehicle application, here we will reduce, again, the cost. We may have to make modules, stacks, standardized modules as well. And also we need to make sure that the fuel cell heavy-duty application really become competitive. The improving of the overall system performance of fuel cell systems in order to improve the availability and durability and to meet the needs of the heavy-duty vehicle end users, because, for example, in cars, 6,000 hours of durability is necessary. When we talk in trucks, 40,000 hours. So it's a huge challenge. We need to improve the design, the monitoring, and again, we will support a huge rollout of a fuel cell truck fleet. I think already now in March, there will be a call for 150 trucks, for example, on hydrogen. Waterborne applications. So here again, scaling up the fuel cell designs to make them commercial. We have to reduce the capex for the PEM and for the SOFC, because here on maritime we see two types of fuel cells, so solid oxide and PEM. Improving also the overall system performance for fuel cells and stacks. We talk here about density, bunkering rate, flexibility for operation. Also, we will work on the improvements in ship design and safety procedures. Safety is extremely important for the shipping as well. And then also, again, we will have a big project supporting demonstration of a number of fuel cell ships, and also there will be a call in March on this. The rail applications, again, reducing the cost of the stacks, reliability, durability improvement, power output we have to improve as well, while reducing the weight and the dimension of the module. Improvements in the train design and the safety procedures, and also supporting, again, a rollout of a fuel cell train, so a real big demonstration. It will not be for this year, but probably in the coming years. Aeronautic application, so the aviation is extremely important, and you will see that in the calls that are coming, because we have a goal that by 2028 we want to build a first Airbus A320, for example, to take off from a European airport and on pure hydrogen. So you can imagine we need to really start working on that fully. So here again, improving overall the system and the stack performance. We need to make scalable fuel cells. We believe, like, for example, 1.5 megawatt would be a very good standard, and then we can put a number of them next to each other. When we talk about turbines here, we need to work on reducing the NOx emissions. We have to work on the airport infrastructure. For example, refueling the planes, you might think about the two sides. Now it's only one side, one wing that is refueled. We also need to develop dedicated technological bricks for aviation, focusing really on onboard storage, like liquid hydrogen tanks, the distribution components, and also the systems for liquid hydrogen. And of course, safety and regulation, you can imagine, very important in aviation. Stationary fuel cells, here reducing the cost of fuel cells. We will also prepare and demonstrate the next generation of fuel cells for stationary applications. That's the famous combined heat and power, CHP systems, because we want them to be that they are able to run on 100% pure hydrogen or very high rich fuels, hydrogen-rich fuels. So we also improve the flexibility of the systems in operation. We think about here reversible fuel cells and integration with the thermal storage. Again, critical raw materials we need to reduce and also improve the recycling and support the development of processes for suitable mass manufacture. So here we will help them again to scale up. Turbines, boilers, and burners is new, especially the turbines are completely new. We will allow turbines to run on a higher admixtures, even up to 100% of pure hydrogen. And here again, we will have to work on the materials while keeping, of course, NOx low. High efficiency, flexible, of course, is important. We will develop also concepts on safety and plant integration, how to build those turbines in a plant, and demonstrate to the retrofitting of turbines, boilers and burners, so that they can cope with 100% pure hydrogen. Horizontal activities, cross-cutting. You can read the details later, but we will work, of course, on sustainability, LCSA, recycling, eco-design. Education and public awareness, extremely important. I have even a special objective in my single basic act. So in my legal text, I have to work on that. Safety, pre-normative research and regulation codes and standards. Of course, we will keep working on that. Then next one is the hydrogen valleys. Here, the main objectives is really we will come to that later, so I might skip this one, but again, we will fund several hydrogen valleys every year in Europe. Hydrogen Valley is really an ecosystem that we can create where you connect all the sectors like transport, industry, distribution, storage, production of hydrogen. So all these sectors are connected and really work as an ecosystem. The hydrogen supply chain, here we need first of all to identify what are the potential vulnerabilities in the European hydrogen supply chain. Once we know that, then we need to develop also new and improved manufacturing technologies and production processes that make sure that we can use safely and sustainable non-critical raw materials. Circular economy principles are very important as well in that. Again, reducing the use of critical raw materials with sustainability or environmental concerns. For example, this polyperfluoroalkyls. We have to work on that. And then that's new here. The next one is the strategic research challenges. Well, we will decide to work really strategically on certain points of research. And we will put a lot of money on that. For example, MEAs, for example, could be for Europe extremely important strategically, and that's why we have this new concept of strategic research challenges. And this is to make sure that we have a continuous generation of early stage research knowledge. And so all the actions will be supplemented by multidisciplinary investigations, gathering expertise, different technology scales. So bring all the knowledge together. The considered approach will gather the required expertise from European research and so from the RTOs, and the result will also lead to a comprehensive strategy investigating new design characterization and blah, blah, blah. So they really need to give us a strategic programming. What do we need to fund even in another projects? But this is crucial for us. So the next steps is that we will launch the call normally on the 1st of March 2022. Still have to climb the Mountain Everest to get there, but yeah, I hope that we will get there. So it will be 300 million euro that we will put at the disposal of the industry and the research organizations, 41 topics on the topics that I have just described. We will have 2 cutoff dates. Half of the topics will need to be submitted by the 31st of May, the second half by the 20th of September. And all the topics are open to everybody, so everybody can participate. But of course, some of the topics will require a member of Hydrogen Europe in the consortia. And for the rest, I mean, it's the normal Europe, Horizon Europe rules. For example, 3 countries need to be represented in the consortia. A very important, mark it in your agenda. On the March 15th, we will have our InfoDay. So if you would like to know more details about what topics exactly we will fund and how much we fund, please make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter, and that's how you will get then also the link to our InfoDay. So very quickly now on the hydrogen valleys. We have supported so far 3 hydrogen valleys, one in northern UK and the Orkney Islands in Scotland. Then the biggest European hydrogen valley, and the first one was in North Netherlands, is in the area of Groningen. Basically 31 partners, and it's really an ecosystem. We touch upon all the different things. And then the latest one is the Green Highland. We wanted also to create a hydrogen island, and this is the island of Mallorca in Spain. Also here you can see hydrogen production. We inject the hydrogen in a gas grid. We use it for multiple uses, for heating, for power, for mobility, etc. And we will have, for example, next year, normally in the call next year, we will fund 2 hydrogen valleys, a big one and a smaller one. So have a look then also from the 1st of March. This you can read by yourself. These are the details of each of the hydrogen valley. You can read it by yourself. Just hydrogen valleys is not only a European phenomenon, it's really a global team. So when you go to the website www.h2v, so hydrogenvalleys.eu, there you can see all the hydrogen valleys globally. We have now 34 valleys in 19 countries. You can see there's a lot of data available. We also have some best practice learnings available on that website as well. The website is managed by ourselves. And I don't go to it in detail, but you can see really it's something, hydrogen valleys is something that was invented by Europe, and now worldwide it got traction. It's so fun to see that now everybody talks about hydrogen valleys, but it was a European invention. At the moment we have 24 hydrogen valleys identified in 11 European countries, as you can see here. And of course our aim is to get more hydrogen valleys across Europe. And I will come to that. How we will do that is under mission innovation. So you might have heard about mission innovation. We in the first mission innovation 1.0, or in the first mission innovation there, we had a topic on hydrogen valleys. We have issued a report. You can have a look at the report with all the learnings. And there were 4 main learnings. One is that still public funding support is necessary to close the funding gaps, and that's exactly what we will do. We also still need to work on finding the off-takers, signing long-term contracts. We need to make sure on the technology readiness, especially for the heavy duty, for example, and also some still legal regulatory support. And that is what you all will find in much more detail in this report. You can download it from our website. We have last June decided to join the Mission Innovation 2.0, not only to join, but also to co-lead the Mission Innovation. And there we have agreed that we want to establish 100 hydrogen valleys by 2030 in the world, and each participating country in the Mission Innovation promised to put 3 in their country. And of course we have a little dream in Europe to put at least half of them in Europe, so we should go for 50 in Europe. It's ambitious, but let's try to go for that. An additional target under Mission Innovation 2.0 is to go by 2030 to a cost of 1.7 euro per kilogram of green hydrogen. That's an additional target. Voila, and here you have all our my details if you have any further questions.
Wow, Bart, amazing. Such ambitious goals and so many of them for 7 years. I could imagine you could work on this for 25. Absolutely. But yes, we don't have time, I know. So you will partly stay with us for the panel. This is the good news. And I also introduced our moderator, Martin Prokop from the University of Chemistry and Technology from Prague. And now he will take over the moderation and will introduce shortly the other panelists. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Gautam. Nice to see you, ladies and gentlemen. So in the first phase, we can proceed with the introduction of the panelists for the discussion. And the first one is Ms. Patrice Millet, the Policy Officer of DG Growth of the European Commission. This floor is yours.
Okay, so you can see me. Sorry, yes, thank you for giving the opportunity to present. I must first apologize because I was asked to participate to this panel on a very short notice, and because my colleague was not available, so that's a bit unfortunate. But I will I would like to give you some general information on where we stand with the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance, and just to say a few words on the IPCEI process. As you know, it's a member state process, and of course, I cannot probably tell you too much about it, but I will give you some where we stand today. Okay, the Clean Hydrogen Alliance was launched in July last year, during at the same time as the EU hydrogen strategy, and the main aim was to, of course, to speed up the deployment of hydrogen technologies and to achieve our climate goals. So another big objective was also to promote investment in the hydrogen sector, and also to favor the rollout of the technology for, in particular, for production and use of hydrogen technologies. So the alliance is industry driven. Actually, to reply to some of the questions that I was asked to answer, it mainly involve companies. We have today more than 1,700 members of the alliance, so you see that it attracted a lot of attentions, covering, of course, the main part is industry players, companies, large, including SMEs, but also the public authorities, NGOs, and of course academia, etc. So that's a very good start, I would say. The structure of the alliance is structured around 6 roundtables, which covers different parts of the value chain. We have a roundtable on production, one on transmission distribution, one on energy, one on industry, one on hydrogen in buildings. So that's also a good way to be operational. And what has been the main result of this roundtable during the 2021 was actually a report on barriers and mitigation measures that affect the hydrogen sectors. And as part of these two barriers that were identified, we decided to create two new working groups within this alliance, which are one on standardization issues and the second one on permitting. So that will be something for us on our plate for 2022. A big outcome of the work of the alliance, and maybe some of you were involved, is during the European Hydrogen Forum, where we actually presented the pipeline of investment projects for hydrogen. Actually, we were able to report on more than 750 projects at European level, covering the entire hydrogen value chain. So this is, I think, very important. Important also to mention is that, of course, the alliance does not provide any fundings, and now this project will have to find a way or a program or funding scheme to be supported. And for this purpose, we have developed what we call the funding compass, which actually report on the 11 funding programs that are available at EU level to support eventually these projects. So I think you can find all this information on the Clean Alliance website, and you will see what is available. So this is good news. So that's all I would say on the overall structure of the alliance. What we also provide to be able to build large-scale projects is the possibility to participate to some matchmaking sessions. Again, there is a platform available on the Alliance website where you can actually enroll to this or participate to these sessions. And this is the role of the roundtable to organize some matchmaking events, and like this we allow the different members to be into contact and to eventually develop a large scale integrated projects that, of course, the Europe would like to see developed. So that's all I would say on the general part on the alliance. For the IPCEI process, as I know, as you know, it's a part that it's a mechanism to release the state aids from member states. So we had actually a pre-notification of two IPCEI projects, one called Technology IPCEI and the other one Industry IPCEI. Overall, more than 120 projects from all over Europe have been pre-notified, and we are currently in the process, in particular DG-Comp, of analyzing these projects. I cannot tell you more about the process. Of course, this is the process is that pre-notification is made to DG-Comp, and then they get feedback that is directly addressed to your member state authorities. And of course, we are not in contact with the project directly. So that's the process. There is a proposal to submit a third wave, which is called Rattle, and it's actually under discussion under the leadership of Germany. As you know, this is the coordination body of the IPCEI process, and I'm sure that some few projects are, of course, located in the Visegrad countries. So that's yeah, the general introduction, and I'm ready to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mia. Our next panelist is Mr. Alexander Meinke from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. Please, Mr. Meinke, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prokop, for your kind introduction. And I would like also to thank the organizers for making it possible to present the ERA pilot on green hydrogen to you all today. Next slide, please. Yes, in order to reach our common goals defined in the Paris Climate Agreement, decarbonizing our economies is the key, and green hydrogen holds a great potential for a successful transition to sustainable energy systems. And with this goal in mind, the ERA pilot on green hydrogen was launched under the German Council presidency as a joint research and innovation initiative. And it was advanced together with our partner countries of the trio presidency, Portugal and Slovenia. And this ERA pilot is an initiative within the new European research area, pursuing the goal to strengthen member state cooperation on research and innovation, and it is complementary to the already existing initiatives on the European level. In 2021, a task force of 25 EU member states successfully steered an agenda process on green hydrogen, and the goal was to identify urgent research and innovation needs for a competitive European green hydrogen economy and to collect them in a joint strategic research and innovation agenda, shortly SRIA. Next slide, please. Participation in the agenda process is open to any European actor with an interest in hydrogen by including a broad stakeholder community from industry, research, and civil society. The agenda process on green hydrogen promotes openness, transparency, and ownership. The involvement of stakeholders representing civil society and EU 13 countries is a particularly important aspect of the agenda process and very important to us, because this sets it apart from other processes that are conducted on the European level. As a result, the agenda process wants to give a certain contribution to close a gap here. Nevertheless, building synergies is of course an integral part of the agenda process. As a complementary initiative to EU activities, we highly value the regular fruitful exchange with the EU Commission and the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. Key milestones of the agenda process reached within the last year have been 3 expert seat papers on the different thematic blocks, an online consultation for stakeholders across Europe in summer, and 3 thematic workshops in autumn concerning production, market stimulation, and transport and infrastructure of green hydrogen. Next slide, please. The findings of these participative steps were analyzed and summarized by the expert groups in the Joint Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, the so-called SRIA, and this SRIA will be published within the coming weeks. It considers the different interests, needs, and positions. Across sectors and prioritize research questions that will lead towards a competitive European green hydrogen economy. And once the SRIA is published, we will transition it into the phase of its implementation. The SRIA offers various points of contact for countries to explore bilateral or multilateral cooperation. We should also make use of the instruments and networks that are already available to us, as for example, the Eureka network that works for 30 years now. If you would like to participate in the implementation of the SRIA, joining the upcoming task force meetings would be the best way to do it. The next meeting will be on on the 23rd of February. And since all Visegrad countries are also represented in the task force group, this is a very suitable platform to discuss the implementation of the SRIA from all perspectives. We are planning to host a conference on hydrogen and the SRIA implementation in mid of May. This conference will also be a great opportunity to network with stakeholders from all over Europe and discuss future synergies and cooperation. We plan it as a hybrid event, so you can come physically to Berlin or you can take part virtually. Achieving the goal of decarbonizing our economies will be much easier if we pursue it in a joint effort. We invite you all to participate in the implementation of the SRIA and look forward to welcoming you to the conference. And once again, thank you very much for having the possibility to introduce our process and the initiative. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Manka. Let me introduce our next panelist, Ms. Karina Krastel, the Commercial Director of InnoEnergy KAC. Please, Mr. Krastel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Martin, and thank you very much for the organizing for having this opportunity to speak at the event. I'm Karina Krastel. I'm the Commercial Director of the European Green Hydrogen Acceleration Center, which was founded by InnoEnergy last year and which is supported by Breakthrough Energy. Really quickly about who is EIT InnoEnergy, to give you a background. We're, let's say, an entity of EIT, and we're co-founded by the European Union, and we're a public-private partnership with the mission to reduce risk and accelerate time to market of energy innovations in Europe. And we do that through 4 main activities, the main one being business creation, which means we invest in early stage startup and scale-ups. We have a portfolio of 350 startups in our portfolio today. And we also work on, let's say, industrial value chains, such as the European Battery Alliance, which might be a program you already know, as well as our European Green Hydrogen Acceleration Center at the European Solar Initiative. But today I'm just going to talk to you about, let's say, the European Green Hydrogen Acceleration Center, which I said is supported by Breakthrough Energy. Our goal at the Green Hydrogen Acceleration Center is to de-risk and accelerate industrial green hydrogen projects in hard-to-abate industries through early stage investments as well as added value services to accelerate the bankability of projects. So why are we, let's say, in our approach a bit different to what exists on the market today is we're industry-led, we're entrepreneurial, and we're end customer off-taker driven. We focus on, let's say, hydrogen, but really green hydrogen only, and its derivatives like ammonia and methanol. And we focus on the value chains where for hard-to-abate industries where green hydrogen can play a role, such as fertilizer, steel, the chemical industry, and mobility. So here, maritime, aviation, heavy goods, vehicle transport. And as I said, we follow a value chain approach, which means we focus on the green premium of end products. So we always try to take, let's say, a market approach to projects that we're supporting and trying to help build out the entire value chain of such projects in order to be less dependent on subsidies and to create projects that can eventually fly in trying to cover the green premium through offtake agreements. And I've just, let's say, included a quick, let's say, example of how we want to think in our initiative. As for example, we work with steel, but also in shipping. If you approach hydrogen projects and its derivatives from a value chain perspective, you would look at what is the premium at the end product you're actually transporting. And in the case of shipping, this is, for example, a pair of jeans that is transported from Asia to Europe, where the green premium actually is 3 to 5%, and we're not talking about the price of green hydrogen. So this is, let's say, our approach and our support schemes for green hydrogen projects. And what do we do is, as I said, we're, let's say, helping those projects de-risk and accelerate through early stage investments. So these are really minority share investments. A couple million euros will really help to kick off projects when they're early stage in order to help build out and de-risk those in the beginning. And we add added value services to the projects, which you can see here. The goal is always, as I said, to de-risk and accelerate. So anything that can help to do that, we will try to provide that for the projects using our European ecosystems and the partners we have in our portfolio that we've built over the last 11 years. And so let's say because I was asked to cover that kind of question, who are our key customers, let's say, at the Acceleration Center. Today, we focus mainly on the early stage industrial hydrogen or derivative project developers. That can be corporates, can be SMEs, can be really entrepreneurial, two entrepreneurs, for example, working together. And we will accompany them and their project developments. And the value we can bring is, on the one hand, as I said, we have investments and added value services, but how does this translate to a developer? It could be we help with technical commercial expertise to build up the project and de-risk it. We leverage our network and trusted ecosystem partners. So we open, for example, doors where doors would usually be closed because we believe in projects and push them. We help to really fast track, let's say, the status quo of a project to go to a market business model, trying to identify off-takers, trying to close the financing gaps, etc. We're independent, which really helps to align, especially in consortium projects, different interests of varying project participants. And since due to our, let's say, long-lasting experience in venture building, we can really help assess the team and build out the team in order to make that successful in future. We also, let's say, we can support those projects because we have a European vision. We assess a lot of those different projects, which can help really have a comparative approach and build out the competitive advantage of each location. And we help, let's say, project developers to perform matchmaking activities the financial institutions really early on in the project development, which can really help, let's say, onboard financial investors early and raise difficult questions in order to resolve them. So the program is open anytime for now. So if there's project holders that could be interested in such a support scheme, just reach out to us at the Acceleration Center. Here's my email address. You can directly reach out to me. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Ms. Kressel, for the interesting introduction. And last but not least, let me introduce Ms. Julia Renaud, Senior Director of the Breakthrough Energy Catalyst Fund. Please, floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Julia Renaud. I am based out of Paris, and I'm Senior Director, not at Breakthrough Energy Catalyst, but at Breakthrough Energy in the Europe team. But I work very closely with my Catalyst colleagues. I think I have a few slides to help run through the Catalyst program and to describe perhaps first and foremost Breakthrough Energy. And again, thank you so much for inviting me. So for those that are not familiar with Breakthrough Energy, it was established in 2015 when Bill Gates and a coalition of private investors began to focus their collective resources to fight climate change. So as you can see here, Breakthrough Energy is a network of entities and initiatives, including investment funds, non-profit and philanthropic programs, as well as policy efforts, all linked by the common commitment to scale the technologies we need to forge a net zero pathway by 2050, and to help reduce the green premium that was mentioned by Karina in order to make these technologies and solutions affordable to all. So as you can see here, Breakthrough Energy is organized to address the gaps that exist at various stages of technology innovation and deployment, and the gaps that delay the time to market and to scale of the climate technologies. And we focus on the climate technologies that have the potential at scale to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 0.5 gigaton by 2050. So from left to right, you can see here first the Fellows Program, which is solving for the funding gap that exists for early stage research and development by supporting researchers in their efforts. Hydrogen is one area of those. Then moving towards the right side, you see Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is solving for the funding gap that exists at the stage of company formation by investing initially in equity rounds and supporting the capital needs of climate technologies as they scale. And here today, I'm here to speak about the program called Catalyst, which is our newest program, which is solving for the funding gap that exists for early stage climate technology projects. So we're supporting projects. And by deploying a blended capital vehicle, Catalyst helps to bridge the funding gap to launch commercial scale projects in 4 areas: clean hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuels, direct air capture, and long duration energy storage. And these projects have either previously been demonstrated via pilot or by an early commercial demonstration. So what is the Catalyst program? So first of all, Catalyst brings together corporate, government, and philanthropic capital, amplifying the impact of each of the partners' contribution. So we have governments that provide the policy foundation and low-cost capital for projects. We have corporate investors. We have investors and philanthropists that provide project capital and create early demand for such products. And including, for example, some of those companies just to mention, there are over a dozen of them: ArcelorMittal, HSBC, IKEA Foundation, to name only those. And what does Catalyst help with projects? So Catalyst provides last mile funding to help fill gaps that will help projects be built more quickly by providing in the form of grants and equity. And it helps align the resources of our networks and partners in order to deploy low cost capital to reduce the financing costs, thereby attractive market investment by improving the project economics and reducing the risk. And Catalyst is also helping to bring buyers willing to pay a premium for these products, creating new markets and an off-ramp to product adoption. So what does Catalyst fund? As you can see here, 4 technology areas. And more importantly, or as importantly, we aim to measure the impacts of such a program by looking at what is the impact on the green premium, so the cost reductions of these technologies as they go forward, as well as looking at what is the catalyzed emission reductions by having these investments earlier on than would have happened otherwise. I can just bring you to the next slide. So we announced a partnership, and here you see the signing of this at the COP26 last year with President von der Leyen and President Hoyer of the EIB. And the European Catalyst Partnership was the first public-private partnership announced by Catalyst already in June with the signing of the MOU at the COP. The partnership seeks to mobilize up to 820 million euros for projects in the EU between 2022 and 2027. And investments will be directed towards a portfolio of EU-based projects with high potential impact in these 4 technology areas, as I mentioned. In terms of the process, we launched a request for proposal on January 2022, on the 11th of January, and very much encourage all of those on the webinar today or the event to look at the Catalyst RFP webinar, which is now open and will remain open through December 2027, depending on pending availabilities, of course, of the funding that remain. So through this open and transparent RFP process, we aim to provide funding, as I mentioned, to innovative projects within the targeted technologies and may offer, as I've mentioned again, equity investments, grant funding, and looking at mobilizing offtake agreements. Now, Breakthrough Energy, Catalyst, and the EIB will provide matching funding. So right now, this is the Catalyst RFP that is open, where Catalyst will select a first set of projects and will do the due diligence. And in addition to receiving BE Catalyst funding, projects selected from the RFP will be considered by the EIB to receive blended financing under the InvestEU program in connection with the partnership, as I mentioned. So all of the information is available on the RFP website link that I've mentioned. And we're very much looking forward to seeing project applicants from Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. And you can see here a web address, Catalyst EU RFP, for any questions or clarifications. I should say that we had a webinar already with over 380 project developers across Europe, and that webinar recording can be made available to the participants if you click on our website. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Renaud. Thank you to all speakers for the very interesting introductions. I think everyone right now has the idea in which business you are basically oriented. And I think we can now proceed with the panel discussion. So I think everybody is rather interested in what possibilities of the financing programs they can participate, either if they are in the research field area or in the industry. And is it even possible to combine the research and the industry to produce some really commercial products with the high impact? May I direct this first question to Mr. Bart Biebroek, please?
Okay. Well, I mean, we are, of course, an R&I project, so we are not yet into the commercialization stage, so we are before commercialization. So, of course, everybody can participate. Our goal is to help to, let's say, to move research stage, so from, let's say, from lab to basically market. And so, yeah, in principle, they can participate as long as there's a notion of R&I. We can do kind of bigger demonstrations under the Hydrogen Valley concept. So if somebody really wants to do something bigger and more closer to commercialization, there you have to look at Hydrogen Valleys, I would say.
Thank you for a very nice answer. May I ask Mr. Renaud, we heard that you are trying to fill the gap between, let's say, the research and final realizations of the industrial projects. In which area, actually, let's say, university startups fit in?
Thank you for the question. So first, I forgot to mention that in terms of the clean hydrogen sort of project areas that we're funding, we're looking at hydrogen from electrolysis with low carbon electricity input and supply usage, with a preference, of course, for renewable energy use. but we're also considering other technologies for low carbon hydrogen production other than electrolysis. And projects may include supporting infrastructure for hydrogen production facilities. Then in terms of the projects, we are looking at the technology must be proven in conditions to be deployed. So we're looking at TRL 5 and beyond. And the idea is, of course, to reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions. And the importance is the project needs to be projected to move towards a commercial scale with substantial development progress towards implementation. Second, another criteria that is listed in the RFP is that the project needs to be scheduled to achieve full commercial operations, no later than the 30th of December 2030. And the project is a fully commercial scale operation with an established site and all of the components. And then last but not least, the project must be based in the EU 27, as well as in Norway and Iceland. So essentially, we are open to, if you will, project developers and project consortia that have the combination of these requirements.
Thank you. Ms. Kressel, I would like to ask, do you have the same, let's say, strategy for the funding as Ms. Renault in breakthrough energy, or there are some significant differences? Are you oriented more on heavy industry, or are you planning to support also some smaller demonstration applications?
Yeah, thank you, Martin, for your question. So that's a really good question. I think first of all, we focus solely on green hydrogen, whereas let's say the Catalyst program also focuses on other technologies such as direct air capture, etc. We focus, I think, on the same, I would say, areas when it comes to green hydrogen linked to hard to abate sectors for the project development support that we're giving and the investments there. However, we also have, like, through InnoEnergy in general, let's say our startup program and the business creation program, we have also the opportunity to invest in startups. So there is, let's say, and that can be really low TRL because we're an early stage investor. So I think we have those two opportunities, but from the Acceleration Center itself, we're very aligned with what Breakthrough Energy and the Catalyst program is doing. But we have smaller tickets and we focus more on the support system of those projects in order to get them through the Catalyst. We could say it like this.
Hey, thank you for the very informative question. I would have a question for Mr. Meinke. You mentioned that you support a lot of bilateral and trilateral projects. Do you think that there is a space for the synergy of V4 countries with their national projects as well? Because I think in majority of the V4 countries, there is a high effort to introduce also the projects focused on hydrogen technologies through the native financing.
Yes, we are aiming, for example, on bilateral or multilateral projects because we have, as the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, we are staying in contact with certain countries who are interested in cooperating with us or with German institutes in research and innovation. And from our point of view, it would be very good to have countries from east or southeast of Europe also in this partnerships, because the countries we are working together are very good countries. We have long partnerships there. For example, Netherlands or also with France or Spain or Italy, we have many interests for cooperation, but we think, and also our scientists, for example, Professor Schlögl or Professor Rackwitz, they think that it is an aim for whole Europe. And so we need to work together and to bring together the different systems in Europe. And we should take now the advantage of an early process, or to start an early process to prevent that we will have in the future the next gap in Europe between West and East Europe. So we think that is very important to bring the systems together to have a strong and a really competitive European hydrogen market. And now we have the time frame to use to be an international global leader, and we need therefore all countries of Europe, not only the EU 15, but we need also the EU 13 countries to reach this goal. That's the perspective we have on this point.
Thank you. Mr. Mia, Mr. Meinke mentioned bridging the gap between the West and East European countries. Do you think it is possible without introduction of the industrial partners and their bigger motivation actually to participate in the scientific and implementation projects?
I don't know if I understood correctly your questions, but no, just to say that within the alliance, of course, we are trying to cover, to have this geographical coverage. Actually, we want to deploy the hydrogen, EU hydrogen economy, meaning that we have actually quite a lot of companies from the eastern part of Europe that are involved in the alliance. And I would say similarly with the IPCEI process. As you know, 22 member states signed the manifesto to be part of this IPCEI process, and among which you find, of course, a project submitted by Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, so that was to be addressed. So this, of course, it's a large-scale deployment projects, but of course they will rely on the research and innovation base that is available within all countries. For the research and innovation part, I think Bart will be better placed to, of course, and we know that there is still an issue to have more involvement from the EU 13 countries in all our activities. But I think we tried collectively to address this issue and hope that you will have a higher success rate or higher involvement in the different initiatives, which actually would be very important. Because as I say, decarbonization of the entire EU industries is not only an issue for the west part of Europe. It's it's very important also for the other part. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mia actually presented his question, let's say, on his own. So I would like to ask Mr. B-Book, are there any possibilities for the further projects which will focus directly on the cooperation of V4 countries with the Western Europe? Or maybe let's use different words. Are there any initiatives to actually promote hydrogen technologies in the V4 countries on the higher level, let's say?
Yes, so there are a few instruments or activities that we are doing. But first of all, of course, we cannot write a call dedicated only for V4 countries. That's not allowed by the Horizon Europe rules. And if you wanted to have that, you should have discussed that during the negotiations of Horizon Europe. So we have to follow, unfortunately, the Horizon Europe rules. Of that being said, of course, we are also quite aware that we need to move also in Eastern Europe to, and V4 as well, to more demonstrations. Because the problem is not the research, really, because when we look at in Europe on where we have very interesting research projects, they're all over Europe, and especially in Eastern Europe, we see quite a good activity on research in the laboratories. What is the problem in Eastern Europe, or the challenge? I will not talk problems. The challenge in Eastern Europe is to bring this out from laboratory to real demonstrations, and that's where we see that things getting difficult. probably lack of money. There are many reasons for that. And that's why we have now made and I put it in the chat, we have made the instrument the project development assistance. Okay, we have done that last year for the first time. It was a gigantic success. We had 38 regions that were willing to participate. A lot of them came from the Central Eastern Europe, and we have done a couple of projects there. We have, for example, in Zagreb, we had one. We had 2 projects in Bulgaria. We had one in Poland. So there's one in Slovakia. So there are quite a lot of things that are going on thanks to the PDA. This year in June, we will launch for €1 million another PDA activity dedicated only to the EU13. So only for EU13. So Western Europe will not be able to participate for that, because we know we need to help to bring these things out of the laboratory to demonstrations. And what is the PDA actually doing? The PDA is bringing the idea or the innovation in the laboratory to really make it a business plan. Look at it. I mean, we pay a consultant who will help the consortia or the number of people working in that region, who will help them to find the financial means, to bring to bring them in contact with the investors, to bring them in contact with, maybe depending what they need, of course, we will see what they actually need in their project, but to mature the project so that they have a file ready to go anywhere, to go for our program, to go to national program, but just make sure that they have the dossier ready, and then they go for funding wherever they can go. And this is the idea with the PDA. So then later on, when they participate in our program, then the file is very mature, very of high quality, and then they can compete, for example, with some of the projects in Western Europe. This is the idea behind. That's one initiative. A second initiative we did, we made a Central European, Central Europe and Eastern Europe hydrogen tour. So 3 years ago, unfortunately, before the Corona, during the Corona, we could not do a lot, but we made a tour from Slovakia, Hungary, to Romania, Bulgaria, and we had big events during the week. We have summits, we had hydrogen meetings with politicians and so on, to put hydrogen on the agenda. And we were quite successful in some countries, less successful in the other countries. But for example, because of that tour that we did and talking with the policymakers, we could unlock €25 million in Bulgaria dedicated to research in hydrogen. So it helps. But is it enough? Okay, it's never enough. I understand that. But we do a lot to help, and we are aware of that. And so I believe that now in the coming years, for sure, Central Eastern Europe and the V4 will be even more successful in our program, thanks to this PDA.
Thank you. Ms. Presto, what is your viewpoint on the implementation of hydrogen technologies and calls for the proposals in comparison, let's say, with the Western European countries?
For our program, you mean, Martin?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we get really quite a lot of requests from Western European countries, but I think the awareness is not there, especially for the V4 countries. We have, let's say, an office in Poland that tries to also scout for hydrogen projects, let's say, in that area. But it's, I would say there is a lack of awareness, and that's why I'm really glad that we could present the program here today and maybe create some interest from potential project holders.
Thank you. So there is that problem with the, let's say, information, like in V4 countries, as we heard. Mr. Meinke, do you think that something can be done with that? Or do you think that could we bring together actually the commercial and, let's say, research subjects from the V4 and Eastern Europe to make more competitive proposals, which would lead to the more implementation technologies?
I think it would be a task for the European level as well as for the national level. So it would be very good to have, for example, such instruments and activities like Mr. Wieboek already explained. But maybe additional activities would be very good, for example, under the European Innovation Council, where we have certain activities also for certain topics, for example, like the EU Ships Act. Therefore, it would be maybe good to have also a certain activity regarding the green transition, also in terms of scale up and SMEs in smaller countries, for example, concerning green hydrogen. And another perspective would be that on the national level, we would have or we need to have funding instruments that prepare yes, the institutes and the enterprises to get fit for the European level and to ask for certain instruments or for money. Sorry, that was my little daughter.
Thank you, Mr. Meinke. Ms. Reynaud, do you think that there is some key technology on which we should focus? We heard that there is great interest in the green hydrogen technologies, especially water electrolysis. Do you think that there are some other technologies that are of high interest, for example, hydrogen transportation technologies or others, which can be actually very feasibly utilized also across entire European Union?
Thank you, Martin, for the question. I think I'd probably revert back also to Bart's presentation around all of the areas of research and innovation that are needed both on the production side, but on transportation, on storage, and then on the end use. I mean, there's a need for the commercialization and research and innovation across all of those technologies in order to reach the goal, again, that Bart mentioned around 1.8 euros per kilogram by 2030. I mean, it's sort of, I would call it all hands on deck in order to be able to bring to life the European hydrogen strategy. So, from our perspective, we're looking at a portfolio of technologies, even if our instrument is quite focused on low carbon hydrogen produced from water electrolysis using renewables. But of course, this is why it's so important that there be, the Clean Hydrogen Alliance is working on all of these different applications as well as on the production side. And I think what I find, very telling also, thank you again for organizing this event, is sort of showing the synergies of efforts that exist, right? From the research and innovation side all the way towards commercialization and the last mile funding that our partnership with the European Union can provide. And I'm just hearing today what we heard, if without withstanding national funding, we're looking at a set of instruments of funding programs that are really helping across from innovation, be that from the hydrogen, the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. Alexander mentioned the EIC. Karina is supporting also through the European Green Hydrogen Acceleration Center. What we haven't discussed today is the Innovation Fund for funding first-of-a-kind projects. And then also, of course, the IPSI process and InvestEU being sort of, again, really important in terms of the continuum of funding programs that can be provided. And this is very much in that spirit, that we develop that partnership that aims to insert itself very seamlessly within the realms of support that is provided, again, to all of the vision that the European hydrogen strategy provides.
Thank you. So I think we saw there is a lot of opportunities for the financing, for the, let's say, higher level technologies and also for the research. But as we heard, the key partners in the implementation of the technologies is the industrial subjects. Mr. Bibuk, what do you think? Is the cooperation in Western-oriented companies better than Eastern Europe? Or what's the basic stance of the Eastern European commercial subjects towards hydrogen technologies?
Ooh, that's a very difficult question, to be very honest. I mean, what is the difference between I don't think there are. Well, I have to say indeed that Western European companies. They are, of course, working very close together. They also form a lot of, let's say, joint ventures to tackle some, let's say, some investments together, because some of this, I mean, to be very honest, I mean, investing in hydrogen is still a long-term investment. It's not really that will bring you money tomorrow, but and that's why they often make these joint ventures together. And maybe you don't see that so many joint ventures are happening in Eastern Europe, but maybe that's something that probably you could look at also in the V4 countries. I mean, how you work together with a number of companies and invest together in a special purpose vehicle, for example. We see in for example, in Paris, these 600 hydrogen taxis that have been deployed. This is a joint venture between, for example, Air Liquide, Toyota, big companies, you know. Maybe it's something you can do similar. But also, I do believe that probably the priority of the focusing point is probably a little bit higher in Western Europe on hydrogen than probably in Eastern Europe, and in terms of the needs and really the priority they put on it. And although this changes now, that's what I said, that this changes quite a lot. I remember, because I have been to Poland, for example, I would say 4 years ago. And when I met in Warsaw, the ministers as well, talking about hydrogen, it was really, wow. It was like they never heard about it. And they said, very honestly, it's not on our agenda at the moment. So it was not yet really on the political agenda. While that has shifted in the past years. And really now, for example, to go back to Poland as the example I gave, you can see really hydrogen is really very much at the political agenda. There is even a commission on hydrogen in Poland and so on. So things has really moved a lot. And of course, when there is a political traction and support, also companies will move. And this is what I see. Well, maybe that's interesting. Then I see that maybe in Western Europe, it's mainly companies that push, and then the policies are politicians are following. I would say maybe in East Central and Eastern Europe, I see it rather different, that probably it has to come first initiative rather from the policymakers and then the companies following. That's a bit what I experienced. Maybe it's true or it's not true. I don't know. It's just something I see happening now and then. But yeah, I can give you the same example also in Hungary. When I was in Hungary 4 years ago, we did a big event and we brought even our hydrogen cars there, but very, very little interest even from policymakers at that time. Nowadays, again, I'm contacted, and I see also in Hungary a big movement. Same for Slovenia, really. Even 1 year ago, when I started to talk with Slovenia during their presidency, say, look, let's do something on hydrogen in your presidency, you know, they came back to me and said, no, hydrogen is absolutely not on our agenda. We have no interest to talk about. That was the first 10 minutes of conversation I got with Slovenia, and that was that. It was an hour booked, but after 10 minutes we closed it. So in the meantime now, hydrogen in Slovenia, we started to create a hydrogen valley in Slovenia and so on. So you really need to work with the politicians. You need to teach them, educate them, and then you bring on board a number of companies as well. We did exactly the same thing in Slovakia. We went 3-4 times to events in Slovakia, inviting politicians, bringing the cars there, and trying to educate the politicians, and then now also, again, you see things going on in Slovakia and in Košice area, for example. So it starts to work, but it takes a lot of effort and energy to educate. And yeah, that's my role, I think. I need to do that as well.
Yeah, I think definitely there is a hope and a lot of space for the improvement, especially in EU 13 countries. Mr. Meinke, we heard a lot about the problems. Maybe we should hear also something about successful implementations of the hydrogen technologies in EU 13 countries. Do you have some examples of such implementations?
There are positive examples. I'm very sure, but I don't personally have now a concrete example here. So we have a big interest to have more examples and more potential partners in EU 13 countries for cooperation. Then we actually now have as what it brings to the part of research and innovation. There's a gap we need to fill.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mia, do you have any such examples?
Yeah, I think you have some companies that are really active in the field, like Solaris, for example, for hydrogen buses in Poland. You have NAFTA in Slovakia. I think companies addressing hydrogen storage are few of them are located in the Visegrad countries, Slovakia, Poland, etc. So I think for some part of the value chain, have good actors involved. So yes, these are the good example of things which could be developed. Of course, it's never enough, and it could always be better. But no, I think there is a good capacity because there is no reason why they shouldn't be. And I think with the issue of the IPCEI process, of course, it's up to the member state to decide how much money they want to dedicate to this topic. And as Bart mentioned, we see also now that there is the political momentum to support these activities. And to bridge maybe to your next session, of course, you see now that all countries have now a national strategy or research and innovation plan, or etc. So we see that we are much better placed than just 2 years ago. It's a very recent move, and I think we can be optimistic that by covering the continuum, of to be able to support all type of activities, we will be more efficient together, and that we will really succeed to see the hydrogen economy in the near future, not waiting for 2050, but I hope even before.
Thank you. We still have less than 10 minutes for the questions and answers, or even the audience can join, write their answers to the chat, and I will present them afterwards to our speakers. So far we have here a few questions. We have a question from Mr. Roman Yamat. It's directly to the all speakers. It says, how do you feel about European Union's decisions on nuclear and gas as a green energy source? So I think we can direct this question first to Mr. Bart Bieboek.
Okay. Well, of course, that's a political question, which is a very sensitive question, I think, at the moment in Europe. I mean, look, each country is, of course, free to decide how he produces electricity, and some countries prefer to do it by nuclear. Okay, they can do it by nuclear, others. So I think we should not judge on that. I mean, as I said, every country is free to do it. Whether nuclear is green or not, okay, I mean, I would just say nuclear do not produce CO2, and that's where I leave it. I mean, yes, there is another issue with nuclear, we all know very well, but it has no CO2. So it can, in my view, contributes, of course, to the CO2 reduction. But of course, there's some other issue, which is a political decision at the end. On the gas, okay, I think there, I mean, separate whether gas should be green or not, I have a bit of another information I would like to share, or an opinion I would like to share, is that, I mean, if we see today the amount of hydrogen that we are using, today in Europe we use about 10 million tons of hydrogen. 96% is gray hydrogen. So we also know that in the coming decade we will have a lot of new applications. Steel has been mentioned, but I also see cement coming in. I see a lot of heavy duty, maritime, so aviation probably after 2030, but still there will be a lot of hydrogen will be needed. So we estimate by 2050 we will need around 70 million tons of hydrogen. And this is times 7 versus today, only in 30 years or less than 30 years. So you know that the European hydrogen strategy said that by 2030 we want 10 40 gigawatt of electrolyzers producing 10 million tons. So in 2030, we will produce in a green format or green hydrogen the amount that we already consume today. But we know that by 2030, we will need more hydrogen than what we have today for all the applications I just mentioned. So what do we do then? Do we say, well, we do exclude blue hydrogen or the other type of hydrogen, and we just continue with gray? Or do we say, look, it's better to go already with blue and see it as a transition period until we are ready to go 100% green? And I think we need to be very pragmatic. And in that sense, I believe that blue hydrogen will play and has to play a very important role. Is because in 2030, we will not be able to produce all the green hydrogen that we will need at that time. So let's be pragmatic and let's see that let's start to use also blue hydrogen is definitely in the transition phase, which could be 20 years. Of course, we all know by 2050 we need to go to green hydrogen. That's not a matter of debate. We know that. The point is, how do we get there? And I believe we should not exclude. So whether then the blue hydrogen should be seen as a kind of a green or, that's for me a political matter. I don't care. I only say that we will need blue hydrogen to get there. That's the most important.
Okay, thank you. We have some additional questions here from the audience, or some are being answered right now through the chat. Yeah, we had here a remark from Mr. Meinke. Would you share the view that the use of hydrogen in EU 15 countries is primarily implemented via market, and that subsidies tend to be used more as an instrument in some EU 13 countries? Would someone like to comment to that question?
Yeah, I can comment. I definitely did not. I don't share that view at all. I see that even in Western Europe. Why do you think that Germany is putting 7 billion euro in a 9 billion euro funding program? France, 7 billion euro funding program. Spain, I think it's 6 billion euro. So if it would be commercial and could be implemented through market, it would not be need for so much support and billions of euros. So no, I think at the moment, as I mentioned before, hydrogen is a long-term investment and we need subsidies. And it doesn't matter whether it's Western Europe or Eastern Europe. I would say even potentially Eastern Europe would have the potential even to go to market even faster than Western Europe potentially, because they might have more wind and sun to produce cheaper hydrogen. So I would put it even reverse. But that's a personal reflection.
Thank you. I think before the coffee break, we have still time for one question from the audience. And we have an interesting question here from Mr. Todd. Do you consider hydrogen produced by living organisms in your hydrogen strategic plans? That could be a good question for Ms. Renaud, actually.
So thank you so much for directing the question. So again, from our perspective, we are looking at hydrogen from electrolysis with low carbon electricity input and supply usage. And we are looking at other technologies, but I wouldn't be able to speak to this particular technology. I think, if I may, I would invite everyone to look at the request for proposal to see what is eligible and what is not. On the other hand, I think, as Bart also mentioned, and other speakers, it's important to look at all of the opportunities related to different technologies. And really important, of course, is the sustainability and the carbon footprint related to those technologies. So again, we certainly are looking at these technologies in particular, but again, from the perspective of what is the impact on the green premium, how fast can commercialization help bring down the costs of these technologies in order to make green hydrogen or clean hydrogen as competitive as today with gray hydrogen.
Yeah, thank you for the complex answer. So I think we will proceed with the coffee break. I would really like to thank you to all the speakers and all the people in the panel discussion. It was very productive one and very informative, and I really think that the audience really really enjoyed the discussion as well. Thank you all, and we'll see each other in the next 10 minutes at 3:45. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our informational event. So right now we will proceed with the presentations and panel discussions of the V4 countries' representatives. And our first speaker is the plenipotentiary of the Ministry of Industry and Trade for Hydrogen Technologies, Mr. Petr Medved. Please, Mr. Medved, the floor is yours.
So, good afternoon from the Prague, and I would like to thank to our Hungarian colleagues for organizing this excellent conference. And it's my pleasure to have opportunity to talk a little bit what we are doing in Czech Republic in area of hydrogen strategy and in all the hydrogen stuff. So I'm not going to talk too much about our hydrogen strategy, but I would like to stress about three things. We are in the first half of our conference, we are talking a lot about the research and development, about the support for that. And definitely it's also in the middle of our hydrogen strategy, because as you can see, we have 4 pillars, and one of these pillars is the technology, and it's very closely related with research and development. But I would like to stress that it's not enough. We definitely need to make sure that all other pillars and that all that ecosystem of the hydrogen is developing harmonically, that it goes step by step. It means that we have some progress also in production, usage, and the transport of hydrogen, that all these three or 4 things are somehow interconnected together. And the third very important topic is that we should not forget about the education. And not only the research and development, but also education is very important for, let's say, support of these technologies. Because in the future, we could have a lot of hydrogen cars, a lot of hydrogen high-tech devices. But we also need to have people who are able to cope with these and who are able to fix these hydrogen cars. In the Czech Republic, we have 2 bodies which are somehow responsible for implementation of hydrogen strategy, which are doing that operative stuff. The first one, which is a small, agile body of about 6 or 8 people, it's a hydrogen coordinator group. It works since, let's say, mid of last year, when we approved our strategy by the government, and we are meeting every 2 weeks to really discuss what will be the next steps, what should be done, what are the priorities. And I'm pleased that I have opportunity to tell you that since last week, we have also the second body, which is Hydrogen National Council. We use the opportunity that we have a new Minister of Industry and Trade, and we had a first meeting of this body, which is his supporting and advisory body. And this body is more broader. We have representatives of ministries, we have representatives of universities, research institutions, and a lot of chambers of, let's say, areas which are somehow related to hydrogen. So this was our first meeting, and the main task of that body will be to prepare the report for the minister, which will advise to the minister what to do, what's the progress in hydrogen development, and what should be the next steps, and what should be the priorities for the future. With that relates what is a role of our Ministry of Industry and Trade in support of hydrogen strategy. Originally, we thought that there will be two main things, like funding programs and definition of some regulatory and legislative proposals. But we realized that the hydrogen is really going very quickly ahead, you know, and it's and maybe I can a little bit go back what Bart said, that there is a difference in different countries who is pushing. You know? And I must say that at the very beginning, it was us, a ministry, who was trying to push somehow and to define where the hydrogen strategy, hydrogen development, hydrogen technologies should go. But now it seems for us like a small ball which is going out of the hill. We started something and now the industries are pushing us. They are asking for some directions, they are asking for some support, they are asking for some advices. And the outcome of that is that we are trying to organize more and more some conferences and workshops. We need to create something like a hydrogen project portfolio, and I will come to that later. And definitely, we are trying to update the hydrogen strategy. So if we are talking about the hydrogen conferences and the workshops, we are trying to prepare something like cornerstones of the calendar across the whole year. We have a couple of events which we hope that they will be repeating each year. Some of them are very good tradition, for instance, Hydrogen Days, which is the biggest hydrogen conference. We'll have this year, it's 12th repetition. Some of these events are organized by us, some of them are organized by somebody else. And another very important topic, and it was again the request from the industry, are some specific webinars and workshops. The first one, which will be organized in March, will be about the hydrogen refueling stations. Afterward, we would like to organize another one on pyrolysis and other ways how to prepare the hydrogen. And we have a long list of topics which are topics interesting for a lot of parties. And definitely these workshops and conferences could be also a topic for international cooperation. Originally, we saw that the funding programs will be like a center of the gravity of our activities. But we found a couple of interesting things. First, these funding programs are very scattered. They are somehow fragmented. And what we are really looking for are some integrated projects. And sometimes it's difficult to find these integrated projects out of these existing funding programs. What we already did is that we are talking with people who are owners of these funds and of these budgets. And for instance, we also found that with Innovation Fund, we have some programs. In Czech Republic, there are a lot of requests for Innovation Fund, but unfortunately, none of the companies has been successful. So now we are trying to prepare some guidelines to our companies how to be more successful. And similar situation is also with some other funds and other sources. But what's crucial for us is that we really need to have some tool how to support these integrated projects. Because what we would like to avoid is a situation that somebody will get money to have some electrolyzers to produce the hydrogen. Somebody else will get the money to have the buses, but unfortunately the buses will be in the north of Czech Republic, and electrolyzers will be in the south. So we need to make sure that at least at the very beginning, these projects are integrated. So it means that if somebody is building up a production of the hydrogen, it's very closely related with some consumption. And unfortunately, the bodies or the parties who are doing the production and who are doing the consumption and utilization of hydrogen are different parties. So what we are trying now is to put all these together into one integrated projects and to have some overview and to do the prioritization based on the effectiveness of these projects. I do not want to cover too much the regulatory and legislative proposals. What we are doing, I must say that the European Union is making us busy in this regard, because now we got a lot of different communications and regulations which we need to evaluate somehow and create a position for that. But I would like to finish with the last slide, which is about the update of the hydrogen strategy. Because whatever I said before goes to one goal, to have the hydrogen strategy which somehow reflects the situation, which defines the priorities, which defines the way how the hydrogen will be utilized, how the hydrogen will be used, how much we will produce the hydrogen of our own, how much we will import it from other countries, and which technologies will be supported, which technologies will be priority from our side. And this is the reason why we create our hydrogen strategy as a framework, which can be updated and which will be updated based on the up-to-date situation. So this is all from my side, and I am looking forward to see also a lot of other hints and experience from my colleagues from other countries.
Thank you, Mr. Merivart, for a very nice presentation about the overview of my home country. And let me introduce our next speaker, Mr. Tomoho Umeda, the president of the Infra Group and vice president of the Hydrogen Poland. Please, Mr. Umeda, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to this panel. It's a big honor for me. I have to add that I'm also the chairman of Hydrogen Committee of Polish Chamber of Commerce. This is important because thanks to that I have access to 160 associations and chambers in Poland, and I can gather a lot of information about what's happening, which is important for what I will say the next, because we have very specific situation in Poland. Until December 2020, when Green Deal came in force, I can say that Polish stakeholders they were not aware about that Green Deal is coming and about the details. So that was a kind of surprise for both the big players like state-owned companies, but first of all, that was a big surprise for private market, especially for middle-size companies. So, but not only, as you know, the coming to the force of Green Deal, but also other drivers came, like price of ETS and ESG and taxonomy standards and so on. So all of these factors really reshaping the reality of Poland, which is the country of 75% of coal-firing power generation. In our energy mix, we are one of the main CO2 emittents from an energy market point of view. But not only that, we have 170 terawatt-hour of district heating, also 85% fired with coal, 443 district heating systems in Poland. So adding those two things, which is 150 terawatt hours and 170 terawatt hours of coal heat and energy generation, that gives us a big result to, and well, let's say a really huge task to decarbonize. This is why I'd like to also talk not only about hydrogen but also about decarbonization, because these two issues are absolutely connected, especially in Poland. In Poland right now we have 30 terawatt hours of renewables among 170 of our energy mix. So now we know that to achieve our goal of 2050 of net zero, we need to extend this 30 up to 700 terawatt hours. So this is the nice question: is it possible? Yes. This is not the question. Is it possible? Because of course we have to achieve this. There is no other option. So this is the task, and there's a big question mark how we can achieve this. And another problem of Poland is that our transmission lines and distribution lines are not prepared for renewables. So we are not able to connect more renewables. Even now, we are facing the big problem of refusals of connection conditions from distribution operators in Poland. So that means that all these factors can come to the point that Polish industry and Polish local governments has to decarbonize right now, at the moment, because of actual prices of ETS and actual problems that they are facing. However, there is no way to do it, and this is in terms of centralized systems managed by the state. And what we are witnessing right now is a very fast dispersion of energy market, because all the production facilities and local governments are right now considering to develop their own renewable energy sources, off-grid energy sources, because they cannot achieve connection conditions for their generation, renewable generation. And of course, the hydrogen comes as a very important part of this system to stabilize the renewables, especially in terms of our seasonal differences in PV efficiencies and so on. So what happened in 1 year after new European Green Deal came into force? I would like to show you on this slide. If I don't know if you can see these are the projects. Believe me that in December 2020 there was only two dots on this map. So what's happening? That happens here happened last year, including hydrogen valleys, including hydrogen clusters, including hydrogen projects that are right now under preparation. It's amazing because everything is happening not top down but bottom up. So usually the industries, middle-sized, big-size production facilities, but also, as I mentioned, local governments that has to decarbonize district heating systems. Why? Because the cost of ETS right now exceeds the income from the heating, which means that these municipal companies owned by municipalities, still these are the companies that they are facing the risk of bankruptcy. And in Poland, district heating is some kind of vital commodity, so it cannot be abandoned, let's say. What we are observing right now, especially among in Polish Chamber of Commerce, is absolutely amazing bottom-up movement of all the industries to find a way to decarbonize, not in 2030, as soon as possible. In next 3-4 years, we expect that we will be able to see at least 50 hydrogen-related projects with hydrogen as a product that is stabilizing the renewables, but also hydrogen that helps to decarbonize district heating and introducing hydrogen economies in dispersed structure. So this is something unexpected, I would say, from especially, you know, I'm also the member of Hydrogen Europe. I had this privilege to witness the what was happening before 2020. So I think the way that Poland is developing right now its hydrogen future is completely different than anything that we could expect. And my general remark is that the task right now we have, and I think that the entire V4 group might feel the same, is very similar to task we had after 1989. It's a huge task, and only thing that we have to be aware of, not to abandon those, not to repeat the mistakes of this transformation of early 90s, not to abandon anyone, and we have to be very cautious about and help people, help companies, help local governments to transform, but the speed of transformation will be absolutely fabulous in Poland. So this is something I would like to underline. Our hydrogen, let's say, path will be different than European hydrogen strategy. I think, but I think it's slightly different because of dispersion of this market. Also, I think that our national strategy was made just after new European Green Deal came to the force, so it will be still evaluated many times. We have also very nice sector deal on hydrogen development, and I think 250 companies and organizations signed this sector deal. So we are really cooperating right now, and I think we're going to be very, very fast with development of hydrogen projects. It's already happening, and I think in the 2 years from now on, we will see already the projects that can be that will start the production. Of course, there is a big question marks about funding, about access to technology, about how quickly we can have electrolyzers on site, and so on and so on. So these are the problems we are dealing with right now. But I can say that, for example, I'm witnessing right now 32 local governments that are willing to start it to do something to decarbonize their district heating sources with hydrogen, and 60 more are waiting for the same action. I can witness right now 20 quite huge production facilities, including, I don't know, milk production, beer production, fiber optics production. Everyone is escaping from cost of energy as a cost, as an important part of production costs. Everyone is trying to escape from ETS. Everyone is trying to get into right ESG position, not to be abandoned in common European market in the future. So it's very dynamic, and the privilege of witnessing this process is something really great. So I'd like to invite all of you to cooperate with us to find the synergies. We have access to the knowledge about the projects. Usually, these projects are, because of dispersion, they are not registered, for example, in Hydrogen Europe indexes. So if you'd like to have a better knowledge about what's happening here in details, we are always open, and through Polish Chamber of Commerce or Hydrogen Poland Association, we are here to help you all to get connected and develop mutual projects. Okay, thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Umura, for the interesting insight into the situation in Poland. Our next speaker would be Mr. István Lepszeny, President of the Hungarian Hydrogen Alliance. Mr. Lepszeny, are you with us?
Yes, I hope that you hear me. It's okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yours. At the end, Agota, would you be so kind to share my presentation and we can get through? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity that I can take part in this very important and very useful meeting today. I would like to give you a short information about our association. The next, please. Basically, we are dealing in some sort of organized form with the hydrogen and hydrogen technologies starting from 2020, when we set up the platform of hydrogen technology in the second quarter of 2020. This platform has the target to get the stakeholders on one table to share the information, to combine the demand and the request. And the first task of the platform was to create or to collect the hydrogen white paper. This is a foundation information, what is going on in Hungary, what is the actual situation with the hydrogen, with the production, with the utilization, with the transportation, and what we would like to achieve until 2050. So this white paper was the basic paper for the hydrogen strategy, which has been adopted by the government last year in June. And since then, we are following the government strategy and helping to implement it. Our alliance is an umbrella organization. Of course, we have a lot of different members, more than 70 members, a lot of big companies, multinational companies, SMEs, universities, and other entities. Our main task as of today to coordinate one of the pilot program or a big project. This is the Green Truck program. And of course, we are responsible for the international relations, and therefore this V4 meeting is very important for us. Next, please. The basic target, the priority objectives of the Hungarian hydrogen technology and strategy, what we want to achieve until 2030 is number one, to start the production of the large volume of low carbon and hydrogen, and in some way centralized and decentralized. So we plan to achieve 20,000 tons per year until 2030. And it would mean to establish or start the production of 240 megawatt electrolyzer capacity. It's quite interesting, but it's quite a challenging task since as of today, we have 99.5% production of the gray hydrogen and no green hydrogen. The second big task is the decarbonization of the industrial consumption, and we want to achieve 20,000 ton green hydrogen for the production, for the industry, and another 4,000 tons gear and carbon-free hydrogen. The third priority objective in the field of green transportation. Here it starts to use the hydrogen in the different type of mobility. We estimate that by 2030 we need 10,000 tons per year green hydrogen for the mobility, and until then we would like to put into the use 20 hydrogen refueling stations, and we estimate that we will have in Hungary approximately 5,000 vehicles using hydrogen fuel cells. And the last big target is mostly in the building industry and the regulation. We want to achieve 60 megawatt average cut-off capacity and to achieve 2% of the mixing or blending into natural gas of the hydrogen. And of course, for that, we would have to use a lot of research and development activity and industrial tasks. Next, please. If we look at the forecast, actually, we consume 160,000 tons of hydrogen in Hungary. Of course, only green hydrogen, as I mentioned, mostly for the fertilizer industry. And until 2050, the official target is to reach 250,000 tons. I would like to add that based on our association calculation or alliance calculation, the demand will be minimum double or even more. It may reach 1 million ton, but the actual forecast for the production still low. It definitely means that we have to make big efforts on governmental part as well as the association part to promote and help the production of the hydrogen in Hungary. Next, please. The Hungarian next, please. The Hungarian hydrogen strategy has 6. Next, please. Just some numbers I want to skip. One more, please. One more. This is the difference between the demand and the opportunity. So we have 6 sub-programs or action plans to implement the Hungarian hydrogen strategy in the coming future. The number 1 is the Green Truck program. For that, we will spend approximately around 100 million euro in the coming years to make the freight traffic especially more or less green. Here we have a problem still that we cannot find good suppliers of trucks with the hydrogen fuel cell. Very similar program, the Green Bus program for Hungary. We plan that until 2030, all the cities in Hungary having more than 25,000 population will have electric buses. We will not install, or we will even more, replace the diesel buses until 2030, and approximately 1,000 buses with electric drive will have the hydrogen fuel cell. So it's a slow increasement, but we start to change from battery to hydrogen. We will establish hydrogen valleys in Hungary. As of today, we do not have any. We have in the plans to have 2 hydrogen valleys in Hungary. We have the so-called hydrogen highway project, which means to promote the production of the green hydrogen, the storage of the green hydrogen, and the transportation of the green hydrogen. Every element of this task is really difficult. The 5th point is the blue hydrogen project, which means mostly for the industrial project or industrial production, which means chemical or also fertilizer or plastic production or refinery, to change from gray hydrogen to blue hydrogen. And we think that we in Hungary have big opportunity to storage the CO2, which we can collect during the process from gray hydrogen to blue hydrogen. And if we are speaking about research and development, minimum 300 million forint, but there are some plans to go up to 1 billion euro we will spend for research and development. Next screen. The most driver to set up the refueling station, this is the 10T road corridors. This year we will initiate the establishment of 4 hydrogen refueling stations, and the next 2 years another 5. The refueling station will be along the 10T main corridors, and when we are speaking about the V4 cooperation, I think one of the very important issues that we have to harmonize where we put the refueling station along the corridors. The next, please. The hydrogen valleys. The one or the biggest hydrogen valley what we plan is the Transdanubian. It's we have oil refinery over there. It's near the Danube. The biggest, or almost only one fertilizer plant. We have a steelworks which is in a bad shape, but anyhow we have a steelworks, chemical and petrochemical factories, and cement plant. And we have a nuclear power plant over there. I followed some discussion about the nuclear energy. You have to understand that in Hungary we are counting mostly on the solar energy as renewable energy, a little bit the bioenergy from biomass, and definitely in the future we see that the nuclear energy is minimum low carbon, and therefore we welcome the decision of the European Union about the nuclear energy. The other valley will be on northeast. It's basically for the industrial usage and also based on the solar panels. And the last one, please. The ongoing project and the main development. Last year, we opened the first refueling station in Budapest, even if it's a temporary station with a temporary permit. Also, we made a call for IPCEI project, and we selected until now 5 potential IPCEI projects, but there is no final decision yet. I have to mention that no Hungarian companies, I mean big companies, taking part in the European IPCEI project, even if there are 4 IPCEI projects, which is very interesting for us, but still it's under negotiation. In the innovation work, we announced 5 big research and development projects, which already started, companies started to work on it. The biggest one, the so-called aquamarine, where we have a plan for electrolyzer, where we have a plan to blending, and also have a plan to storage the hydrogen in the existing natural gas field. And further 4 projects in the planning phase for electrolyzers, for power to gas, biomethane, and hydrogen production, and the seasonal energy storage project. Actually, the biggest task for us to establish and start the production with electrolyzers of the green hydrogen. We have several such a type of project. In the research and development field, we will set up the biggest in Europe fuel cells test bench, and we have several pilot projects which we already initiated, like refuse tank trucks or hydrogen buses. You mentioned Solaris, and Solaris will be introduced in Hungary in 2 days. Tomorrow we will have the official announcement. We also prepared the train. We also are working on ferry hydrogen boat activity. So for us, the mobility is one of the biggest tasks. So this is the most important information about the Hungarian hydrogen activity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Lepsony, for a very comprehensive overview of the situation in Hungary. And now we can move to our last but not least speakers from the Slovakia, Mr. Jan Vajtešec, Chairman of the Slovak National Hydrogen Association, and Mr. Maroš Halama, Vice Dean for Research, Innovation, and International Relations at Technical University at Košice. Please, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very glad to have an opportunity to speak in this forum on behalf of Slovak Hydrogen Initiative. As was mentioned, I think 3 countries or V4 countries were in the same starting line in 2020, except of Czech Republic. They had research and development very earlier or sooner than we have. So Mr. Mervart knows that platform HITEP was very active before 2010, I think 2007 were established. So, but we are very fast. The 3 countries from 2020 year. I will present my presentation here, and I show you how we start and where we start. So the government announced the opening hydrogen agenda in July 2020. It's the similar like as I heard in Hungary. And from this July, we prepared a strategy. But before the strategy, the national IPCEI hydrogen call was open. We had 4 projects in the first wave. As you know, the first wave was aimed to research and development and first industrial deployment of the hydrogen technologies. So the 4 project is in negotiation, and 2 infrastructural projects, Black Horse and Ustream hydrogen backbone, or part of the hydrogen backbone is preparing now. You know, maybe about Black Horse, that Black Horse is aiming to V4 countries to deploy heavy duty transport. This is a idea from 2018, I think, or 2019, but it's a huge project. It takes billions of euro, so it's not very easy to go through the negotiations. Ustream hydrogen backbone is not the name of the project, but is a part of the backbone, which will connect the eastern part of Europe, Ukrainian hydrogen production, with the rest of the Europe. So it is very important pipe highway for the future hydrogen, cheap hydrogen, I would mention. What I mentioned already, June 21st is a milestone for the Slovakia, because the national hydrogen strategy was announced, went through the government, and since then we preparing action plan, a special documents which is additional part of the hydrogen strategy, and the action plans contents with about 36 measured that could prepare the environment for the implementation of the hydrogen technologies, research and development, and support of all the value chain of hydrogen ecosystem. One of the first measure in the in the action plan is the hydrogen roadmap. The hydrogen roadmap will be a document or the analysis where exactly we will what part of the hydrogen economy will be seriously supported in Slovakia. And January 23, we will awaiting calls for the hydrogen value chain incentives, and this will be a financial support for the building of hydrogen ecosystem. I will prepare the chart or the graphic how we see the hydrogen value chain in Slovakia towards 2030. As you know, in Slovakia we have 2 nuclear power plants, and as Czech Republic and also the Hungarian colleagues mentioned, nuclear power now is considered like a sustainable power. So Slovakia will use mainly night power capacity for production of hydrogen. We estimate to produce hydrogen from solar, wind, and water power plant, hydropower plant, and we estimate 25,000 tons of hydrogen yearly in 2030. We want to diverse generation, and we want to use also the biomass, waste biomass, 2nd and 3rd generation, and also municipal solid waste, which is not recyclable very well, for production of hydrogen with gasification or fermentation or even plasmatic decomposition. This could be 20 kilotons of hydrogen in 2030. And we also want to use natural gas with carbon capture storage technologies to add another 5,000 tons in 2030. So the other parts, or the second part of the value chain, is the distribution and application. Distribution consists under distribution we understand transmission or transport, distribution, and also storage. We want to use underground seasonal storage, which is now in research in Slovakia, and the end application in mobility, industry, heat and power generation, and synthetic fuel production. We plan to build 25 hydrogen refueling stations in 2030, which cover mainly all regions. We want to build 5 hydrogen refueling stations till 2025, which is exactly in 150 kilometer distance in 10 corridors, which is binding in the future to implement it every country in European Union. We can see the most consumption in industry. As you know, Slovakia has a big ammonia producer, Duslo, which now producing 100 kilotons gray ammonia per year. Also, we have a refinery, Slovnaft, and also we have a US Steel Košice, the main polluter of CO2 in Slovakia. These targets for mobility are not official now, but what I'd like to mention about this, something more. We estimate on Slovak road about 9,000 personal vehicles, mainly the more heavy category. Then about 600 light duty vehicles, 260 buses, and 550 heavy duty vehicles. These numbers could be changed, of course. We don't know what happened next years, but we know that there is a huge interest to change diesel-powered regional trains for hydrogen trains, especially those where the rail are not electrified yet. And this is outlook how we could reach carbon neutrality in 2050 by hydrogen, when hydrogen could claim a share about 28%. So now we have a big production of gray hydrogen, what I mentioned. Then we need to switch to the blue or green hydrogen, this huge consumer of hydrogen. Then there is an opportunity for 24% in mobility to replace fossil fuels. And the big change is to greening of the heat production, about 30% of replacement of fossil fuels, what we use today. And the power generation in meaning of support of TSOs in Slovakia to produce peak power in about 30%. And there is an opportunity to switch from carbon way, how to produce iron in US Steel Košice, to direct hydrogen production. If all this production will switch to hydrogen, we need 20 kilotons of hydrogen. It's huge amount, and you see 820 kilotons in 2050, which is not able to cover by domestic production. We need to be connected to hydrogen backbone to ensure enough and cheap hydrogen to the economy. And this is all from my side. You can see a nice piece of sporting car, which is still showing in Expo Dubai, and this car is based on hydrogen and use innovative storage of hydrogen in metal hydrates storage tanks. So this is all from my side, and I would to give a microphone or presentation to my colleague Maros Halama.
Thank you, Jan, for general overview on strategic activities across Slovakia. And what I would like to add from the Slovakian perspective is some research and education activities across Slovak universities and Academy of Science. But before, I would like to show you that we have not only national strategy, but we have also regional strategy in Košice region, which is called Hydrogen Plus strategy. And as was mentioned, it's always about linking research between industry, academia, and what is very important is local self-government region. So this is the way how we do it here. And this strategy was adopted or launched before adoption of European hydrogen strategy, a few months before. The strategy consists of content is from production to storage, metallurgy, when mapping also the battery sector, because as you know, in some application like fuel cell, without batteries, we do not reach target in some applications. But mainly focus on research and innovation activities, especially in Košice region. But furthermore, I will talk about research on a national level. So what is really important here in any kind of new technology like hydrogen technology is in a massive deployment and successful deployment, we need to take account also public awareness, but this technology must be safe. So we are focusing on these pillar activities in our R&D activities. So here are some running projects last 2 years, and now some are running still. with mainly focus on interaction of hydrogen with components in energy sector, especially in gas sector, because you know that one of the key question is retrofitting, repurposing of existing pipelines underground, but also building a new one for hydrogen backbone for hydrogen highway. And through this, if we divide it into research activities, some kind of like testing of homogeneity of hydrogen blending in natural gas, when interaction of hydrogen with odorants, influence of hydrogen of mechanical properties of components, testing of or monitoring of leakage hydrogen from the pipeline system. So this is the most challenging or key issues which would be treated before will be implemented in a massive way, and to treat that the technology will be safe. Jan also mentioned IPCI project, European Common Interest Project, and we are involved together with a lot of universities and institutes of academy of science on mainly on 2 projects. So as indirect partners, we support preparation phase, and one is dealing with high capacity storage, and one we've mentioned hydrogen backbone or highway. So I think this is the most important in later deployment of future hydrogen technologies locally on regional basis across the countries, because you need high capacity transport for long distance and for reasonable price. So I think this is one of issue we can focus on is retrofitting, repurposing, or building new pipeline for pure hydrogen. As Bart mentioned in the previous session, education is like single act, so it's very important. It's the highest priority because we need a lot of new kind of let's say hybrid engineers with strongly interdisciplinary skills, and we need to also train our lecturers, our researchers in this kind of technology. So this is the only way how we can massively teach new or young generation in this decarbonization plans across various kind of industry. But the problem is there are 2 approaches. One on national level, in Slovakia maybe it's the same in V4 countries, but also in United Kingdom, what I know, that we have no capacities. We have, this is like material science or chemistry is not very attractive for young generation. So we need to make it more attractive. So we apply like these IT technologies like augmented reality, artificial intelligence in this education process in green technologies. And another approach is international, working on an international level, because as you know, if investors come and build giga companies or deploy hydrogen technologies, is international investors. So we need to build international teams, and that's why our universities is trying to join networks of European universities like Ulyseus. So we are part of this in Technical University, and now we are preparing joint master and PhD degree diploma for international study program. One is awarded already, and it's called Energy, Mobility, Transport, and Smart City. So you see where the hydrogen and all these green technologies are hidden in this energy, mobility, transport, smart cities mark or brand. And this project is already in preparation phase until March. Will be finished with Spain, Italy, Finland, and Austria, and launch on the next semester in September. So nowadays we are in a phase of co-creation group working on documents, and a tricky thing will be accreditation process, because as you know, I'm working in research or academy field. There is criteria who can adapt a new study program and how to warrant a study program. So this is also a challenge for our rectors, how to run on the international level for these very fresh new interdisciplinary programs. So this from my side, I just mentioned that we need cooperate not only like V4 countries, but on European levels, so or in national level with ministries. For example, in Just Transition Fund, we have some project regarding Innovation Center or Green Tech Learning Center. We need to be members of working group, which is very important in Hydrogen Europe. There are several working groups like energy infrastructure, because you can work on bottom-up approach, so working on the strategic research and innovation agenda documents before they will be adopted in European Commission and then European Parliament. So this is from my side. Thank you.
I would like to thank presenters from Slovakia, Mr. Vajtošúc and Mr. Halaman. In contributions, we heard a lot about national strategies for the hydrogen technologies development. And I think there is one main question still to be addressed, and that's the synergy between the V4 countries and the relation to the European Union infrastructure, especially in the terms of funding the projects and innovation, and also for the creation of some commercial hydrogen products and their implementation to the market. So if I may ask Mr. Lepsani, what's your opinion on this topic?
Thank you very much. I think that some sort of cooperation between the four countries is absolutely important. What we see that actually on research and development level, there are several connections, but on industrial level, I can count on my two hands where we see really some sort of cooperation. But it's very important and interesting that the condition or the precondition for the hydrogen development, technology utilization in these countries are very similar. When I was listening to my colleagues, I've seen the same problems, how to storage or how to blend or how to produce. Of course, in the case of nuclear energy, it's a little bit question mark for some of us, but I think that it is a must to cooperate together in the field, and not only the refueling station along the 1010, also in production. You mentioned the InfoDay project, and also that Black Horse is a multinational project, a huge project. We would be very much interested to join or to find some common interest. Number one, Vabers is one of the biggest Eastern European fleet company. Number two, that the transportation, Hungary, Slovakia, Czechia, Poland also, it's a crossroad of Europe. So we have a lot of companies which are moving, a lot of trucks and lorries which are moving through these countries, and this requires really a strong cooperation. And also I think that, let's say, in the production of buses or in the other production, we can and we have to find some common laws. And of course, it would be a good idea to have some consortium or to find some consortium and apply for the money which we heard today that will be open 1st of March.
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Lepsani. There was also interesting mention about the hydrogen powered trains, which are currently developed in Czech Republic and Slovakia simultaneously. Is there any synergy between the Czech Republic and the Slovakia? That would be maybe good questions to Mr. Mervard first.
Actually, in reality, there is a lot of parallel development because we have different producers, and we need. Actually, I cannot say that it's wrong that sometimes there is no cooperation because these companies are sometimes the competitors. You know? Because, for instance, even in Czech Republic, we have 3 companies who are developing hydrogen buses. You know? And they are somehow cooperating, but somehow they are competing. You know? So I am not aware of cooperation in the area of production of hydrogen trains, but definitely I am aware of some cooperation in fuel cells, and let's say the Slovak guys showed a very nice racing hydrogen car, but they have even better something like a plane, a hydrogen plane, and on that hydrogen plane there is a cooperation between Czech companies and the Slovak companies. So we are able to find some cooperations, but these cooperations must be really based on the particular case, which is, let's say, a win-win situation for both sides. And this is probably a task, the task of the ministries or the task of the association in the countries to really look for such examples, for the real cases which can bring benefits to both countries.
Thank you, Mr. Mervard. There was also an interesting question from the audience about, let's say, synergy between V4 countries and exporting the hydrogen technologies to the countries in Africa and Asia. Mr. Uleda, do you think such thing is possible at this time?
In Poland, we are starting with development of hydrogen technology somehow for last 10 years, when it's already started to happen all around in other European countries. The Polish companies, only few of them were interested in developing this technology. So now probably we are facing quite nice movement of companies that would like to produce their own electrolyzers, fuel cells. We have very nice Polish company that specializes in hydrogen storage system, hydrogen first. But we are. This is the beginning stage of own technology development. So I think we're going to integrate the technologies from other countries, including Japan, United States, Germany, Denmark, Norway, but also Czech Republic, because there is, for example, a great company of Witkowice cylinders. We are. I think we are integrating this. I mentioned about the fact of dispersion of the hydrogen market, but of course also big state-owned companies are also developing their own ways of hydrogen. Recently, the biggest Polish company, Orlen, the oil and gas champion, declared to spend 1.5 billion euros for hydrogen development. In Poland, I have to mention about at least 3 train producers, including PESA with their hydrogen trains, bus producers like Autosan, for example, or Solaris with hydrogen buses. So it is happening at the moment, and I can say that we are facing this development of technology, very rapid growth and very rapid growth of interest to develop it. And despite of the fact that the dispersed market is being created right now in Poland, The big industries are all very, very focused right now to find their own way to develop, to get this nice place in the hydrogen technology market. However, I think it will take some time, but not so much, because first hydrogen train was already introduced a few months ago. The next ones will be introduced probably this year. The hydrogen bus was introduced in December by Autosan, so it's happening very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Umeda, for your very enlightening comments. And we have one final question here. It would be most probably best to ask Mr. Weiterschutz. What is your opinion regarding the financing of the hydrogen programs by public-private partnerships? Is there such an example in Slovakia so far?
Yeah, as my colleague in Poland said, we are in the beginning, so the project are now creating, and there are some pioneers in Slovakia which aim mainly to the hydrogen generation, and there is one public-private partnership. I can mention the company YES, which is consortium of Czech energy company and Slovak government to build a photovoltaic power plant connected to the electrolyzer, and then hydrogen will be used in near city Trnava in bus public transport. So this example could be trend-setting in Slovakia, not only in Slovakia, but in V4 countries, how to start. And this location, what I mentioned, is a good candidate for the hydrogen valley, hydrogen region. And this is what I want to mention, that we have hydrogen regions that are neighbors to Poland. For example, Žilina. We have in previous skills or experience with cooperation in other fields. So we can continue with cooperation in hydrogen between, for example, Žilina region, then Krakow, then Ostrava in Czech Republic. This is a triangle where hydrogen is developing very, very fast. So let's use partnership, which now is supported by European Union, and let's prepare some international project in these fields.
Thank you for the answer. And sorry, but due to the shortage of time, we cannot answer any more questions. At this time, I would really like to thank all the speakers for their nice contributions and also shedding the light into the progress of hydrogen technologies in V4 countries. And a special thanks also to Agota, who basically prepared the event and sure it's very smooth and nice proceeding. Thank you, and I now give word to the Agota for the remarks. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Oh, thank you so much, Martin. It's me who appreciates your support and your excellent moderation. And I will be really quick with summing up. So first of all, I just repeat it once again. So we will share all the slides and all the presentations and the recording with all the participants. And just as for the content, so as far as I could conclude, so we have heard this several times that cost is an issue, but also coordination and of course scaling up. And I think even if we have a special V4 road to scale up hydrogen research, we can still better use the existing possibilities on the European level. So I hope that this information session helped us all to see these possibilities and we can cooperate better in the future. So thank you so much for all the speakers and all the participants for joining us today. And I hope this was the first step and we can just continue our cooperation. Thank you for being here. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. See you. Bye bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.